If you want to learn an L-sit, a toes to bar, or a handstand pike press, but you're having trouble lifting your legs in the air, you're having trouble keeping your legs straight, or maybe it's just uncomfortable being in that forward fold, that pike position, this is the video for you, because today I'm going to be going over the different elements of pike flexibility and how to improve them. When it comes to having good pike flexibility, people immediately jump to just looking at the hamstrings. And yes, they are a super important part of the movement, but if we want to be comfortable in a forward fold, we also need to address the QL, the sides of the lower back, and the calves. So we're going to start with my go-to stretch for the QL. We're going to set up in this half kneeling position here. The side that I'm stretching is going to be this one. So from here, I'm going to push my knee out to get the hip into external rotation, and then I'm going to round forward. Big emphasis on round. We don't want to be neutral. So from here, every time I take an exhale, I'm going to look to round even further through the neck, through the upper back, and through the lower back. So if I inhale, on my exhale, I'm looking to round. I don't have to keep this arm straight. I can look to bend it as I round even more. Make sure you're still pushing that knee out. My go-to recommendation for this would be 2 sets of 5 exhales on each side. So the QL is feeling good. The next thing we want to look at are the calves. And we're just going to start with a basic, very simple calf stretch. So you can have a step or a plate, something to hold on to, because then this way you can just focus on being in the stretch rather than balancing. And then one foot, one heel is off the plate, and we're just going to sink into that stretch. For this, I recommend anything between 1 set of 60 seconds, or you could do 3 sets of 30 seconds, or 2 sets of 45 seconds. Don't forget to do both legs. This next movement is also for the calves, but it's not something I would recommend to beginners. This is something that you would start to include if your pike flexibility is starting to get better, but maybe when you're cold, it's still not where you want it to be. So this drill is something that you can include in your warm-ups before your pike flexibility training. You're going to need a plate, a block, or a step to stand on. I'm going to use a foam roller. You can use a foam roller too, or a block. Or if your pike flexibility is not that great yet, you might need a high box or a bench, and you're going to see why. Because basically, we're going to be hinged forward. The higher your support is, whether it's that box, bench, or the foam roller this side up, the easier it's going to be. The lower your support is, so maybe you're using a little step or another plate or a block, or you've turned your foam roller over, the harder this exercise is going to be. Just like the previous calf stretch that I showed you, this one is also going to be single leg. What I'm going to do here is, if this is the leg I'm looking to target, I'm going to bring the heel off the plate, and then from there, I'm going to let my weight shift towards the heel. And then from there, I'm going to do a calf raise, and then again, I'm going to come down into that stretch. When I come down into that stretch, I should feel the hip shifting towards the stretching calf. So you've got your support here, and then you're moving through the stretch and the calf raise. If I wanted to make this harder, this goes down a level. I'm still in my pike, and then from there, the hip shifts into the stretch, and then I lift into the calf raise. So hip shift, stretch, lift, calf raise. That one burns, so I would recommend anywhere between 2 sets of 10 to even 20 reps. It kind of just depends on how your body's feeling and how long it takes for you to warm up. Just going to interrupt your stretching real quick. If you have found any of this information so far helpful or valuable in any way, don't forget to like this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well for more calisthenics and mobility tips. So we've looked at our QL, our calves are feeling good. Now we finally move on to the hamstrings, and we're going to start with a hamstring stretch with some isometric contractions. We're going to start in a half kneeling position here, except we're going to straighten out the leg, and this is going to be the leg that is working / being stretched. You can have a foam roller or something to hold on to, and this is going to require us to hinge with a neutral spine, so not a round back like last time. We're going to hinge forward with a neutral spine, and if our other hand can't touch the floor, you can grab another foam roller or a step or a little P-bar to hold on to instead, because we're not just going to stretch. Well, first we'll start with stretching. This, you're just gonna chill here for about 30 seconds. The stretch you're looking for is about an 8 out of 10 in terms of RPE, so we're slightly uncomfortable, but this definitely shouldn't be painful. And we're gonna hold this here for 30 seconds, because then after the 30 seconds, we're going to start adding in some isometric contractions. And there's two parts to this. We wanna think about the hamstrings, but we also, in the other part of the contraction, wanna think about the hip flexors and the lower core. So this is where the compression starts to come in as well. So it's been 30 seconds and we're in this stretch. From here, I wanna use my hamstrings, my calves, my heel, to really press the leg into the ground as much as I can. And then the rest of my body is super tense, okay? So I'm tensing everything and I'm going to, for 5 seconds, drive this leg down hard into the ground. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then from there, we're going to do the opposite, where we think about the hip flexors coming into the lower belly, but we're not trying to lift the leg. We're simply just trying to use the hip flexors and to isolate the hip flexors. So the rest of my leg is going to think about going down as well, just the hip flexor that's trying to go up. So it's gonna look like nothing's happening and we shouldn't really see the leg lift. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this tense and I'm just going to think about the hip flexor coming up towards my upper body. So for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I contract and then I relax. What you're going to do is alternate those two 3 times. I'm going to switch legs though before I talk you through that again. And you also get a different angle. Half kneeling, straighten, and then from there, forward fold, neutral spine. Remember, you're chilling for 30 when you first begin, but then you've got your 3 sets of 5 isometric contractions. So 10, 20, 30 seconds of contractions, and then again, you're going to rest for 30 seconds. I shouldn't say rest, you're going to stretch for another 30 seconds after that. So it's a pretty long set. So going through this again, driving everything down, the hamstrings, the calf, the heel, and I'm really tense in the upper body. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then everything else is down, but the hip flexors go up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I would repeat that sequence for another 2 times. Chill here for another 30 seconds, so nothing's tense and I'm just relaxing. Not really relaxing, I'm in that 8 out of 10 RPE stretch, and then that's a whole set. So that is a long set. I would recommend 1 to 2 sets of that. I'm going to show you 2 hamstring exercises because you might be working your pike flexibility twice a week. And on your first session, you might do that hamstring stretch with the isometric contractions. And on your second session, you might do this exercise here, which is a long B stance good morning. And I recommend having something to hold on to because you're going to be in quite a wide stance. And then from here, you're going to hinge forward like you would in a good morning or a Romanian deadlift, keeping the legs straight. So I'm hinging. This is the leg that is working and stretching, and then I'm coming up. So I hinge, and then I come up. We can also do this weighted. I would still recommend holding on to something. You can just have a weight in the opposite hand. So long stance here, hinging, get that hamstring stretch, and then back up. Hinge, and coming back up. You don't want to go too fast. Try to move with a bit of intention and obviously a lot of control like we would with any other exercise. When it comes to slow reps and flexibility training, I don't really program a lot of high reps just because I think people tend to lose patience with it and maybe start rushing things and kind of losing that intentionality. So with something like this, I would recommend somewhere between 6 to 8 reps, but moving nice and slow and really exploring that stretch and your range of motion. When it comes to holding an L-sit, doing a pike press or a toes to bar, we don't just want passive flexibility, we need active flexibility. So it's all well and good for our hamstrings to feel nice and stretchy, but we also need strong hip flexors because they're what's responsible for lifting our legs up, whether it's in that L-sit, the toes to bar, or a pike press. The first exercise I'm going to show you is a seated pike hip flexion. So we're going to start in this pike position here. Single leg is going to be your beginner, very first level. So we're going to place the palms flat, and similar to the hamstring exercise we were doing before, the hamstring stretch, we're going to be tense in the upper body. Then from here, I'm going to use the hip flexor to lift one leg off of the ground. So just lifting. You might see a similar exercise for straddle press tutorials, and you'll notice that a lot of these variations might be in this straddle angle, but when it comes to active flexibility, you get strong at different angles, and because the goal here is pike, we're going to be training this one in a pike position. So we've got our leg lifts. When it starts to feel good, or it doesn't really ever feel good, I think we just get better and then we move on to harder things. We can then go into doubles. We can also add, maybe we need an in between the single leg and the double. We're gonna grab a dumbbell, a little object, could be anything really, it could be your drink bottle, and we're gonna do this single leg variation where we just use the object to keep our range consistent. If we wanna make it real hard, we can chuck this upwards, and then we're doing that. I think if you're getting to a point where you can do it like this, where we really have to, I can't speak when I do it like this. You probably don't need to be training your pike flexibility, unless maybe you're trying to get a V-sit at that point, but this might not be the video for you. This exercise could be anywhere between 6 to 20 reps, and that could just depend on the variation that you're doing. If you're doing quite a high object, maybe you're not doing 20, maybe you're doing 10. If you're doing body weight single leg, maybe you're doing 20 each side. We're gonna go over one more hip flexor exercise, and you're going to need a box and a weight, or it could be a kettlebell. Basically, it just needs to be something heavy that you can put your foot under. And the higher the box, the harder the exercise is going to be. And I recommend setting up next to a wall or a squat rack, or having a dowel or just something to hold onto. Because again, we want to be able to have these things to hold onto so that we can actually just focus on the movement versus having to balance and stabilize. So what I'm going to do here is place my foot under the dumbbell. So if you had a kettlebell, you just put it in between the bowl and the horn into there. And from here, I'm going to stick my glutes out, anterior tilt. I'm gonna hold on. I'm going to keep everything tense, and I'm going to think about, again, using my hip flexor to lift my leg upwards. The dumbbell should be heavy enough that you're not lifting the dumbbell up. It would actually be crazy work if you did, and you definitely don't need this video if you could do that. So glutes out, use that hip flexor, keep the leg straight, keep the supporting leg straight as well. Proud chest, I'm going to use the hip flexor to lift up against that weight for 5 seconds. So I usually like to touch the hip flexor just to kind of get that mind to muscle going. From here, I'm gonna go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It doesn't look like anything's happening, but for you, it should feel really tense, and you might even get a bit crampy. So we're gonna do 3 sets of 5-second holds. So we're gonna go again, stick those glutes out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax a little bit, shake it out. Maybe you might need to knead out a cramp. We'll go again, straight legs, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's not over yet. You're going to now put the foot on top of the weight, or if the weight is quite high, like a kettlebell, maybe you'll move backwards. And then from there, again, everything is straight. You're going to lift the leg for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then of course you're gonna switch sides. The rep range for this can really vary, which is a good thing because it gives you the option to include this exercise, it's a great exercise across multiple programs. And you could do what I did just then, which is 3 sets of 5 seconds and then 5 lifts, or it could become 2 sets of 10 seconds and 5 to 8 lifts. Or if you're crazy, it could be 1 round of just a max contraction, 15-second isometric, and then 5 to 8 lifts there. But you've got a lot of options with this stuff. And those are my go-to exercises for better pike flexibility. I'm going to make a part 2 where I go over specific progressions to actually unlock your L-sit. But if you would also like a video on toes to bar or the pike press, let me know and I can make that as well. See you in the next video.